you have a nice weekend? I had a very nice weekend. It was a little bit strange. It kept reminding me of, the days before deploying to Iraq. Like it just like everything has this, you know, quality to it that is unstable, right? And not like unstable like everything's about to fall apart, but unstable in that the status quo is about to shift. The status quo, the basics are about to shift. And that's what it feels like. It feels like all the kind of the most basic fundamental things are about to shift. And I'm not sure how they're going to shift, but there's just the awareness of, yes, it's going to shift. It's either going to shift to kind of like a place where everything's, even more new than what everything is, not to be injecting any politics, but the way the Trump administration has governed has been kind of ad hoc, what it can get away with. And if they win, I imagine they'll continue to take that track, whatever you can get away with. And if they lose, it's going to be interesting, because if they lose, then that means that, and it's clear, then that means that there's a clear indication from the country that they want something different, and everything's going to be different from that. So everything is different. And so here we are in this kind of just moment, gosh, it's so familiar. It's funny. My biggest life experience, and I think becoming a soldier and going off to wars is very much a life-changing experience. And I wouldn't say that it's greater than becoming a parent, but I would say it's different. And so this is like becoming a parent is growing something. Life is what that something grows in. So I feel like this is like a more baseline change than being a parent. So anyway, it all leads me to the fact that we're on the 82nd stanza. So we've been at this for 17 weeks. This is the beginning of the 17th week. And we're on stanza 81. We've got 33 stanzas left. And we started, 17 weeks ago. And one of the things that I just have always experienced, because this is the third time I've done the Art of Peace. The first was blogging. That was 2010. The second was podcasting, which was probably 2016, 15, 16 maybe. And this third time, of course, is video. But every single time I've done it, there have been these kind of uncanny correlations between the stanza and what's going on. So there's just this sense of like, it just feels connected, right? And there's a synchronicity to it, but it also feels, and this is where I really find my understanding of spirituality comes from. It feels very much like life participates with me. And by that I mean, the more present I am, the more clear there is a correlation between how I'm perceiving the world, interacting with the world, and what shows up in my world. So there's just this direct correlation between my participation and what's going on. It's not just this, life isn't just this empty experience that we just get through. It's this experience that we get to explore, not just life itself, but ourselves. And so anyway, the point I'm trying to make is, all three times there have been these uncanny coming togethers, and it's been happening day after day after day, and this is no different. So this is the 82nd stanza. Excuse me, the 81st stanza. In our techniques, we enter completely into, blend totally with, and control firmly an attack. Strength resides when one's energy is concentrated and stable. Confusion and maliciousness arise when one's energy stagnates. Okay? So the title I made for today is What Makes Up the Moment. So I want to go into that, and then we'll go into the training, because this really fits into what I'm saying here about you're participating with life and life is participating with you. It's a back and forth. It's not a one directional kind of thing. It is a co-creation. And so I just want to kind of draw that out a little bit. So I got my markers here. There. All right, so what makes up the moment? So the moment, let's say, all right, so one way to think about the moment is time makes up the moment, right? Time, okay? So the moment is these little increments, right? And, they kind of get broken down smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. You could say, well, that makes up the moment. And I would say, well, that's more the mind. That's more what the mind does. See, time connotes past, future. So time isn't really the moment, okay? So then we've got, well, you've got the, so there's the mind. So we've talked about that. Let's say the body. The body makes up the moment. So that's sensation. So we've got sensation inside the moment. And then we've got the unknown, the mystery. So you could say that the moment is comprised of these three things. You've got time, sensation, mystery. So time is kind of what we can create with our mind. Sensation is what happens with the body. The mystery is what we don't know of. So let's just do this. Let's just say the moment is here. And what can show up in the moment is arguably infinite. Anything can show up in the moment. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to add the fact that you are interacting with the moment. So that's you. And what the moment is made up of. Mind, body, mystery. Okay? So, inside of any given moment, you've got your mind, you've got your body, and you've got your mystery. Now, what's so significant about this is that the moment is not just comprised of these three potentials, it's also comprised of how you interact with the moment. Okay. So I don't know if you know or have heard of this concept inside of this idea of quantum physics, but basically the idea is that inside the moment is infinite potential. And the second you start to interact with the moment, you change it. So your participation changes the moment. So what you have here inside of any given moment is not just this thing that's just moving, that's just time. It's not just time. It's your interaction. So your interaction with your mind, your body, and the mystery dictates what the experience of the moment is. Okay? So this is what makes up a moment, right? Now I'm articulating it in a kind of two-dimensional way and just putting it up on the board, whatever, who cares? But what makes the practice so nice, and that's what we're going to go into now. What makes the practice such a big deal is that we can turn the explanation of the moment into an experience that you can actually interact with yourself. And I've got a new breathing practice that I want to share with you that I'm actually calling Under the Gun. And I want to bring that to your attention, give you a chance to play with that. And so now, okay. So now just think about it. All right. So right now, where you are as you're cueing comfort, as you're about to kind of shift into whatever you're about to deal with, or however you're about to get ready to practice, this moment, the moment that you're in right now, contains infinite potential. Okay. Now, what the practice of mindfulness is all about is interacting with that infinite potential in as open and non-judgmental a way as possible. And the reason why you want to do that is because anytime, like he's saying, anytime your awareness kind of stagnates, it gets kind of pigeonholed, it gets kind of stuck. Anytime that happens, um, you kind of go into a place where the worst versions of yourself become more possible. So you're in a place of identification. You think you've got something figured out. You kind of go into your story. That's kind of when you get kind of clamped into one kind of way of thinking. And I mean, it makes sense, right? If you've got one way of thinking and that way of thinking is challenged, then you've either got to defend that way of thinking, or you've got to let that way of thinking go. And if you're defending a particular way of thinking, then you're kind of thinking that what the experience or what the moment holds is whatever you decide, or whatever, or the moment is the story you bring to it, and that's the way it's going to be, or that's the way it should be. The problem with that is you get pigeonholed, and when you get pigeonholed, you get kind of stuck in the kind of the systems that really kind of formulate the powers of ego and the kind of the powers of identity and things like that. And while there's a lot of powers to those things, they're not stable. They're not the kind of things where you can just say this is the way this is. That just never works. It's never worked through time. It won't work now. It won't work into the future. You can put power behind it, but it's still not gonna last. So instead, the idea is, well, instead interact with the moment in a way that's not clamped down. Interact with the moment in a way that's open and non-judgmental. And the reason why you want to do that is because inside that moment, your systems, now it's important to understand this, your systems are far more ready to participate with what's showing up, what's being created, and your ability to interact with that in a smooth fashion is far greater than if you're pigeonholed. So again, what we're working with are odds here, right? So the odds of you moving through a moment smoothly, contributing to the betterment of the people involved in the moment, yourself, et cetera, that's a skill. And the chances of you engaging in a skillful action in that moment go up the more you are engaged with your practice. Now, they go down the less you are. Now, it doesn't mean you're screwed, it doesn't mean everything's broken. It just means the chances of you interacting with the moment skillfully go down. The chances of you interacting with the moment more skillfully go up by practice. So that's what we're working with. Now, the challenges that we face is that life can get hard. So how do you keep your chances of bringing the best version of yourself high when life is really, really hard? Well, that's part of the reason why you practice. That's number one. But number two is interacting with hard stuff, right? If you can interact with hard stuff, and I'm talking like tough emotions, I'm talking like anger, frustration. If you've got kids, you're interacting with hard stuff all the time. If you go out in public, there's hard stuff out there. There's complex ideas, complex moments. You're dealing with that all the time. Now, what gives you the best chance of doing that well is being aware of what's going on inside yourself as you're doing that. And so I'm using this to set up the third bell, because I'm going to bring this new technique in. It's called under the gun. And under the gun is just being present when things are in a kind of intensified experience. And so we're going to intensify the experience through what are called breath holds. And we're going to create this intense environment. Now, what happens in an intense environment, if you're present, is you can start to understand and see what's actually going on inside yourself while you're under the gun. Because, going back to the military experience, when you're under the gun, that's where truth lies. Like, that's the thing. That's the whole point of the phrase under the gun. Truth can be found there. And by that, I mean, what's really going on inside of you? What's really happening? And if you can practice being under the gun without being under the gun, right? So you're mimicking this kind of intensified environment. Then when the intensified environment does show up, you'll be better prepared. You'll know what's going on, and you'll have some tools for it. So go ahead and follow all your cues to comfort. Get yourself squared away. Elevate my rear here a little bit. Get yourself good. Once you've got that, we'll get started here. Here comes first bell. What's showing up for you in your senses? Right now I've got a little bird to my front left, so like at 11 o'clock. It's a tiny little bird. I can hear it just go cheep. To my 1 o'clock, of course, is the refrigerator. A little drip of the refrigerator unit. I just noticed some coolness on my chin, left side. Smell my socks. Sensation in the neck. Some tension in the shoulders, some heaviness in the shoulders. Okay, let's go to bell 2. Ground, what's beneath you? Pelvis, base of the spine. Core. Heart space, shoulder blades. Make sure you move your heart space and shoulder blades around. Throat, jaw, top of the head. Once you get to the top of the head, think of getting taller by 1 millimeter. Soften the eyes. Soften the muscles of the face. Alert and relaxed. Let's go third bell. So just get your baseline first. Notice your breath as it is. When you're ready, breathe into the max. And breathe it all the way out. Breathe into the max. Hold till it starts to get uncomfortable. And breathe out. Now here's something to keep in mind. When we go under the gun, it's really important that you don't go to your max. Don't try to do this to max out. Do it to the edge of discomfort or your edge of ease. It's the edge of ease that you're after. You want to go to one. If ease is 5 down, so inside of 5 is ease. So it's 4, 3, 2, 1 or different variations of ease. Anything over 5 gets into hard. Stay right inside of 5. So when we go down, so we're going to exhale all the air out. When you get down there and you're holding, don't hold to the point of discomfort. Hold right at the edge of ease. You want to get right inside of that. That's so important. You want to participate with this in a way that's still easy. You want to always notice your easy edge, okay? So now take your breath and blow it all the way out. You can do it even double more by blowing all the way out of your mouth and then blowing it out the rest of your nose. So out mouth. Okay, so that's the basics, right? So you breathe in all the way up, hold, okay? Hold until you get slight discomfort. Not it's getting hard discomfort, slight discomfort. And then just blow it straight out, get all the way to the bottom, hold, slight discomfort. And then you're just going to go right back up. Go right back up, hold, slight discomfort, right back down, hold, slight discomfort. And I want you to do that 10 times up and down, okay? I'll meet you back after I've done my 10, but I can't stress this enough. Do not go past your edge of ease. Stay inside of hard. Stay right at the edge of ease. There's no need to go any further or any harder. It's useless. What's important is developing the practice where you can start to see, you actually feel, oh, that's what that feels like this time. Oh, that feels like this time. Oh, that's a little bit different. And what you'll notice is your mind will start to really zoom into this moment, and how you participate with the holds will be informative. So when you're ready, let's take it all the way in and we'll begin. Better just make it 5 rounds instead of 10. After your 5, sit for about a minute. fourth bell. What are you grateful for? It's just whatever's in your mind. It's in my mind immediately I thought of I'm grateful for my wife, I'm grateful for my kids. And then cultivating what's, wonderful in your life is really only as kind of useful and valuable as if you can take the goodwill that's within you and share it with others. So all of this stuff that we do, all this mindfulness, all this work, all this development is only as good as our ability to share it with others. There's just nothing about this work that really makes it valuable unless we put the goodness in ourselves out into the world, and especially share it with those that are suffering. There's just nothing else that it's really that good for unless we're doing that. So that's important. So compassion, where in your mind is there suffering? And how in your mind would you envision your goodwill supporting or in any way alleviating some of that suffering? And it could just be you just imagine the suffering and you visualize your goodwill, streaming out of your heart to those people or to the beings, to the earth, to whatever you want to use it for. But that's fourth bell. What'd you think of being under the gun? I'm going to do it every day this week to kind of play with it. But I've been doing it myself in my own kind of practice, and it's been really interesting. I've been combining it with a technique called Wim Hof, and it's just been really wild to kind of use this ability to kind of explore the internal world. So it's a big day. It's a big day tomorrow. We'll be here tomorrow before everything starts up. Oh, man. All right. Thanks for watching. We'll see y'all tomorrow.